So I've been training for almost 6 years now. And let's just say I experimented with a lot of different shit throughout my fitness journey. I've experimented with different splits, different training methods, different tracking my calories, cutting, bulking, main gaining, all this shit. And I have found a lot of these common habits that when I sort of followed them, no matter what I was doing throughout all this stuff, I was sure to get a lot of freaking gains. Like when I was doing these 5 habits that I'm going to pass on to you, I saw a lot of freaking change. I saw a lot of freaking improvement. My strength, my size overall, all this shit. And that's basically what we're going to be diving straight into. Obviously, if you don't know anything about me, I started my fitness journey really skinny. I was about 59 kilograms, I believe. And I was really freaking skinny, let's just say. I was really skinny. I was like a total freaking twink. And, I started training. And obviously, I started training in a small gym. But it was more than sufficient for me because obviously I was really weak and I could barely even lift a Smith machine. So, I obviously bulk up after maybe a year or some shit when I figure out that I actually need to bulk up. So it was about maybe a year and a half into the gym. And I start bulking. I get to 70 kilograms. And then I move gyms. I get to 80. And then I end up cutting because I actually bulked up to 80 pretty fat. And now I'm back at 70. I bulk up again. Like I went through a whole bunch of this shit. Like I could go into details, but you get the gist. I then bulk up again. I bulk up to 80. Then I sort of main gain it. It's a little more leaner now. All this shit. And obviously I end up bulking again, reaching 90 kilograms and all this shit. So, I've done a lot of different shit in my fitness journey, but it's always the growth phases, which is, sort of our first freaking tip, our first freaking habit, which is obviously just eating more. When I went into seasons of bulking, eating more, that was a sure season that I was going to see myself improving. Whether it be my strength, my muscle mass. Obviously, I see a lot of people fear bulking. And, it's probably just because they want to keep the looks maxing acts up and they want to make sure that they're all pretty and shit. But the truth is, it's like, dude, even if your freaking cheekbones got a little blurrier, it's like, it doesn't even fucking matter. Because you're a fucking skinny neck twig. And, it's not that it would even freaking matter on you right now, the freaking cheekbones. So once you have a thicker neck, right? And I say that metaphorically as for, like a freaking bigger physique overall. When you're bigger, when you're freaking, when you've got a thicker neck, then you could start worrying about these little micro details of I should be lean and I should have the cheekbones and all this shit. And at that point, you might even freaking consider steroids, honestly. But till then, you want to freaking do as much, like at least that's just my opinion. When you're first starting out, you're below freaking like 60 kilos or like you're at the freaking 60 kilo mark. I would say even below, anything below freaking 80 kilograms, you should probably be worried for yourself. So I would say bulk up to 80 kilograms. Try your very best. And, eat as much as humanly possible. I don't care what you eat. Obviously, track calories. This is very important. You could use MyFitnessPal or any freaking tracking app. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you're tracking your calories. Make sure that you are eating more than your freaking maintenance calories, aka just the normal calories that you sort of always eat unconsciously or consciously, whatever. So essentially eat more, right? The simplest way to put it is just eat more. Track your calories. Make sure that you're eating more every single day. And you'll start to notice significant freaking, strength gains. Overall, you'll just look better. You'll get a fuller chest, wider shoulders, bigger arms, everything we fucking want, So obviously, you might gain a little bit of fat, and that's okay because you have to go into seasons of looking a little worse. Sometimes it's not always freaking sunshines and rainbows. Sometimes your cheekbones will go a little blurrier. I'm currently bulking. I'm not as pretty as I could be. But, it's like we have to freaking go through that. And that's completely fine. So, that's the first thing, is obviously just make sure that you're always bulking. If you want to grow, if you're in season of growth, you have to be bulking. And preferably, the more calories you could eat, the better. Meaning, if you could eat 3,500 calories, great. If you could eat 4,000 calories, great. If you could eat 5,000 calories, great. Obviously, you can try and, not have it super quick because you're scared that you might gain fat. Right, sure, I understand it. Whatever. Like, you could freaking eat like 200, 300 calories extra and still, gain a decent amount of muscle. Sure, do whatever you want. If you want to gain it as fast as possible, like I did, I just freaking ate 5,000 calories a day every single day for like freaking 3 months, ended up gaining 10 kilograms. A lot of it was muscle. I would say probably maybe 7 kilograms was freaking muscle. And ended up cutting. I cut down. I freaking got a little leaner. And, that was sort of the main deal. So it's just about, just freaking whatever you want to choose, right? Like you could choose the fast way, you could choose the slow way. Fast way has a little more consequences, aka are just going to look a little worse. Whatever, right? Do whatever you want. So the second thing is obviously you shouldn't be fearing overtraining. And I see a lot of people who fear overtraining, especially when we're talking about building an aesthetic body, right? When we're in a freaking season of wanting to build an aesthetic body, you really shouldn't care about strength too much. Like all you should care about is the pump and like just how freaking destroyed and pumped you feel after the fucking workout. That's really all you should care about. Now, if we get into powerlifting, it's a completely different story. Everything is freaking overtraining. If you overtrain just a bit, you're going to freaking have compromised gains. So, we're obviously talking about getting more freaking better looking, getting freaking, a more better physique, a bigger physique, which means you could get away with overtraining. In fact, the better way is overtraining. When you overtrain and eat a sufficient amount of calories, you will actually end up, significantly growing. And that's just my personal experience with it, and probably experience of a couple of different, bros I've helped, sort of following this method. Essentially, the main thing was you overtrain, you eat a lot of freaking calories, preferably over 500 calories in surplus. And essentially, that will sort of balance the two out, right? When you overtrain and you eat enough, it will balance the two. You won't end up actually overtraining too much, and you'll end up actually healing and giving your body the necessary nutrients to freaking grow. So obviously, if we want to get into the third element of this, is obviously sleep as much as possible. But, do I even have to freaking detail that? Try and freaking sleep as much as possible. And, that means if you could sleep 8 hours, 10 hours, as much as possible. And it doesn't matter if it's consistent, although it would be better if you just slept 8 hours as a whole. Though you could obviously sleep 4 hours, then wake up, do whatever the fuck you want, and then have 4 other hours, sort of later. Or you could have a 2-hour nap with a 6-hour freaking sleep. Whatever. If you could get 10 hours of sleep, that would be wonderful. If you could get 8, that's still really good. Try and not get anything below 7 hours of sleep. That's just, the lowest thing you could possibly get. If you get anything lower than that, recovery is compromised and it's not going to be too great. But obviously, one night of sleep is not, freaking death. So, obviously, overtrain, going back to the second point since I didn't really highlight this. Overtrain and make sure that you don't fear overtraining. Meaning you freaking push yourself, you do drop sets, you do supersets, you do crazy shit. Just don't fear freaking going out completely destroyed. Genuinely. You do almost have to freaking, go back to that old school kind of mentality of freaking Tom Platz and, Arnold doing crazy freaking amounts. And obviously it could totally, once you've gotten the hang of it, right, you could shift to high intensity training and sort of only do a few sets. But But I mean, at least for me, I think that style suits a person who's looking for strength gains a little better than someone who's just looking for pure hypertrophy. If I was looking for pure hypertrophy and only pure hypertrophy, I would just go all out in the freaking volume. I wouldn't really give a fuck. So basically, just don't fear overtraining. Add as much volume as possible. That would help you out and that would make you feel insanely pumped and destroyed. So obviously, the fourth thing is optimizing your testosterone. It doesn't have to be taking steroids, although taking steroids would significantly help. But even if you simply just optimize your testosterone naturally, meaning you cut out the estrogenics or you tried your best to limit estrogenics, you perhaps, detoxed a lot of the freaking estrogenics out of your body. So you did saunas, you maybe took dragon's blood, pearl powder, whatever it might be, and these things sort of detox those estrogenics out. Essentially, try and get freaking healthier levels of testosterone. If you do need to, you could obviously use natural sort of supplements. So you could use like Tongkat Ali, you could use Fedoja agrestis, you could use Shilajit. There's a lot of different things you could use. Those are the ones I recommend. And obviously, if you want to go all out, I would prefer, and obviously this would get you a lot more freaking gains. You just freaking take testosterone, right? Like doing a blast. Obviously, if you're under 80 kilograms, I wouldn't recommend it just because you'll just be wasting a lot of the freaking potential, the natty potential. At some point, you have to sort of notice that. If you're fucking 60 kilos, you just started hitting the gym and you're going to freaking start taking steroids. Like, what the fuck? So bulk up naturally to at least 80 kilograms. And then obviously you could take whatever the fuck you want from steroids. That's just my opinion on things. So optimize your testosterone whatever way you want to. And the final thing, and probably a really freaking important thing, which is very underrated, is just taking pre-workout. The number one supplement that these people will sell you, the freaking, supplement people of the freaking gyms, the number one freaking supplement is pre-workout, dude. It's not freaking protein, it's not creatine, it's not any of this bullshit. It's freaking pre-workout. You freaking take pre-workout, it will make you freaking train more intensely. It'll give you more energy. It'll freaking make you like a total beast in the gym. So it's like, why the fuck wouldn't you take pre-workout? Better pumps, like better freaking, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra reps, better freaking endurance. It's like, why the fuck wouldn't you? Pre-workout's freaking amazing. If you have some issue with caffeine, you could just take caffeine-free, like stimulant-free pre-workouts. They're out there. It's like, I just genuinely see no reason why you would not take pre-workout. It is genuinely the freaking best supplement out there. So that's really the main freaking deal. A brief recap. Make sure you're bulking, don't overtrain, sleep as much as humanly possible, optimize your testosterone, and take fucking pre-workout. It is that freaking simple. These are the 5 universal habits, the 5 universal laws that if you want to freaking grow, you should be on this shit. You should be on this freaking habits and making sure that these habits are in your freaking, routine, whether you're conscious of it or you aren't. So that's really the main freaking deal. You do these and, the bulking alone will probably give you 80% of the freaking gains. But these things, they will really maximize that for you. So that's really all there is to it. And as long as you commit to the work, you'll be getting your results.